All right, welcome everyone. My name is Ross Yelsey. I'm an Assistant Director of Admission and Marketing at Columbia Journalism School. I'd like to thank you all for coming today to this discussion about our dual degree in computer science and journalism, a really unique program available at Columbia University between our school, Columbia Journalism School, and the School of Engineering and Applied Science here at Columbia. And I want to mention before I go forward that we have a ton of other events coming up about our other degree programs, and I just want to let you know just in general what those are. So we have a standalone MS program, and that is just at the Journalism School and is all about building professional skills in journalism. We also have a MS in Data Journalism program, which is a bit different than the one we're talking about today, but is all about doing data-related reporting, data-based investigations. We also have a Master of Arts program for experienced journalists who want to go deeper into one of 4 areas, and those are arts and culture, business and economics, politics, or science. And we also have a PhD in communications program for people who really want to go out and do a academic career where you're going to spend a lot of time doing research and teaching as a career path. So not a professional degree program, but more academic in scope. But now today we're going to focus on the program I mentioned, the dual degree program here at Columbia. And I should mention that it's a unique program in the sense that we do have some other dual degree opportunities at Columbia Journalism School where you can apply to another school like the School of International and Public Affairs or the law school and do a dual degree program between them where you apply separately to those 2 schools and then integrate your education. Here it's this specific program, this dual degree program is one application you can submit through the School of Engineering and Applied Science, this one app for the 2 programs basically. And this program is much more integrated in the sense that you take courses in both schools at the same time. And we'll talk about that more going forward. So a very cool program for people who have the inclination to want to work maybe doing R&D for a news or media organization. And I'm really pleased to welcome Professor Drumul Mehta, who just joined us at Columbia Journalism School this year. He's an Associate Professor of Data Journalism and the Assistant Director of the TAO Center for Digital Journalism here at Columbia. And we also have a 2020 graduate of the dual degree program, Aaron Brezel, who is currently in the offices at the Washington Post. And I'd like to thank both of them for coming to chat more about this cool program we have here at Columbia. And I thought I'd first ask Drumul a bit about your own background in journalism and computer science and how you kind of found this convergence between those 2 kind of skill sets in your own career.
Yeah, so I did my undergrad at Northwestern in philosophy. I did a master's in computer science there as well. I had no idea I wanted to be a journalist at the time. I was not even on my radar, but I had worked with some journalists at the Night Lab over at Northwestern, and I was working on a project sort of analyzing the congressional record. So I was really interested in text analysis and natural language processing at the time. And I was working on finding applications for that in the real world. And I bumped into some journalists and showed them my project and they were interested and I sort of kept in touch. Once I graduated, I went to work for Amazon. I was a software developer for Amazon in Seattle for all of a year. And then I just remembered how much I enjoyed being around those journalist friends, contacted them, went to NICAR, which is the National Institute for Computer Assisted Reporting. They have this annual conference where a lot of data journalism-y types sort of get together, and eventually found a job at 538. And so for the past 7 years before coming to Columbia, I worked as a database journalist, politics, which is an awesome job title that I had no idea existed, where I both built databases that powered a lot of the core politics coverage at 538, but I was also a reporter and a writer, and I have a byline and I was writing for the site, but also sort of building databases and doing computational analysis. So there was this really neat opportunity to do a bit of everything. So I did that for 7 years, and now I'm here at Columbia teaching data journalism.
Great. And Aaron, I thought I'd ask, since this is a unique program, it has the requirement that to do it, you have to already have some background in computer science and be able to work at a graduate level in that area. How did you find this program, and what was your own kind of ambition when you set out to apply to it and then join the program?
Sure. So I always had a long-standing interest in journalism. Going through high school and college, that was like my primary extracurricular. Like I was working for the school papers, reporting on like sports and athletics and whatnot. But in college, I started developing an interest in CS, and eventually I picked up a minor in it. And as I was getting closer to graduating and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I knew that I wanted to sort of continue exploring my interest in journalism and sort of develop that. But I also wanted to develop some additional skills in CS because I felt that that was a good career path forward. Like I could unite the two of those things. And, just like Googling around basically, one night, like looking at different things that I could do or jobs I could get or programs that I could, sort of join, I found this dual degree program online just, through Google. And it seemed like the perfect thing where my CS skills were still very light, like not terribly developed. It was just, a minor. So, 4 or 5 CS classes, but with this program, I could develop those skills even further and then also develop my journalism chops even more as well. And so it made sense to apply. And luckily I got in.
Awesome. And Druma, why do you think it's important to have a program like this that has graduates coming out with both the journalistic and the kind of computer science skills? What need do you see out there in the news organizations for people who can do, multiple kind of skill sets when it comes to computational work and reporting work?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it doesn't work as well when there's a journalist who's telling a developer what to do, and sort of we need these sort of blended roles in order to really be able to effectively communicate data and data-driven news to readers. So there's definitely a need for it. This is going to be a bit of a long-winded answer, but when I started at 538, I was a philosophy major. Like I said, I had a computer science degree. I'd never written a single news article. So like I showed up at my interview with like my CV and a philosophy essay from college, and I was like, please don't ask for a writing sample. Like I really hope they don't. And they didn't, and they hired me because it was a different time. There weren't programs like this. There weren't sort of journalism schools churning out people who can code. And so, in this day and age, I don't think I would have gotten that job because there are plenty of people now who sort of do both of these things. We also have this data degree program that teaches sort of students how to code, but this is really, I think, the next level of that, where you have sort of a proper CS degree and a proper journalism degree, and you could show up sort of on day one ready to do the kind of work that needs to be done in places like 538, Washington Post, all sorts of other places.
Great. And I thought at this point, since it's kind of a complicated program, it's a 2-year program between 2 schools. So I was going to share my screen and show people kind of how the curriculum breaks down over the 2 years and get a sense on the different components at the journalism school and also in the computer science department. And then I'll ask Aaron a bit about his experience doing the different parts of that as we go. I should mention too that the slide I'll show is current. It may change in terms of some of the configurations in coming years. So this is like as of today, this is what it looks like, but it should stay generally the same. But this is a model of what the current students are doing with their coursework. One second, I'll share my screen here. Okay. Great, so people can see this, I hope, here. And as you can see, it's broken out into the 2 years, the first year at the top and the second year here. And you can see that it's not a program where you do 1 year only at the journalism school and then the second year at the computer science department. You do classes in both schools throughout your curriculum. And I thought I'd start by asking Aaron just what it was like to start with reporting, which is what all of our Master of Science students at the journalism school will start their education with. It's a class that sends you out into New York to do a lot of different types of stories. And I thought I'd just get a sense on what the student experience was like beginning the program that way.
Yeah, that one, that was a very interesting class. It's very much like, a crash course into what it means to be a journalist. So there's not a lot of like assumed like reporting expertise here. Basically, like that starts with like, what's a lead? What's a nut graph? Here's how you interview people. And then they send you out into the world to like go and talk with people. And with journalism, as with many things, one of the best way to learn how to do something is to go do it. So I remember like our first assignment for our reporting one class was wasn't attached to like a specific story. It was just to like go to the subway station and like ask people about their commute and like write it down and sort of, piece it together. And that was a really great experience because it really like, threw you straight into the water of like, oh my God, I have to go talk to like strangers and like ask them questions. And that sort of mindset permeates sort of the whole class, where it's all about learning by doing. Your teacher is also your editor. They're providing you guidance on how to like approach your stories and develop them, and sort of basically show you the ropes of how to be a journalist. That's probably like the strong, like they probably do that to like give you like a very strong foundation in journalism before you do like a lot of the more complicated or like esoteric things and explore journalism in all the niches that you can explore there.
Yeah, it's the class I wish I had the opportunity to take, and now I teach a reporting module, and it's just so important to have like a solid grounding in both disciplines, and this is that for the J School.
Yeah, and I should mention for the reporting class, it's not just the dual degree students in that class together, right? It's a mix of people from the MS, the broader class, from other specializations in the MS. So you have, a very, integrated community of people in the school when you're taking those courses. And then for the written word, that's a class that is also a key component of the MS curriculum at the journalism school, and that's where you learn stronger writing skills. I was going to ask Aaron too, what class you chose when you took that.
I'm not sure if I'm going to get the name exactly right, but I took narrative reporting or narrative writing with Michael Shapiro.
Oh.
And basically, the purpose of that class was to sort of teach you how to write a more long form, like prose driven piece. And that was like a ton of fun after, a lot of after reporting one or the reporting module, which sort of like teaches you how to be like a beat reporter to like work a specific neighborhood or a specific topic. This is your chance to really like dive into a single story and explore, or at least the class I took, it was a chance to explore like the intersection of like reporting and like narrative storytelling, which as someone who was personally very interested in like the storytelling aspect of journalism, like that was very satisfying. So yeah.
Great. And so I'll talk a little bit about the journalism courses, and then we'll go back and talk a bit about the computer science part of it too, but you can see they kind of go together. There are some key components of the journalism curriculum that are spaced out between the different semesters. So there's also law and ethics, which gives people a grounding in the ethical and legal considerations that all journalists need to think about when they're doing their work. An investigative techniques class that all MS students would take, where they learn key information gathering skills, interviewing skills, information requests skills like FOIAs and things like that. And then there's a class specifically in our school, but it's about computational journalism called Frontiers of Computational Journalism. And that's in your second year when you start. Aaron, do you have any memories of that particular course and what you did in that?
Oh yeah, that was a very interesting class. It was taught by Mark Brown, who is the head of the Brown Institute still, I think.
Or Mark Hansen, right?
Oh, Mark Hansen, sorry. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, so he taught that course, and basically he structured it like a newsroom. We would like show up to class every morning at like 8 a.m. and like talk about events of the day or like newses of the day that had to do with like computational journalism. We would like pick out different articles, like unpack them, how they put them together, and sort of deconstruct them in that way, and then use that information to start building out like our own stories. I think we had to create like 3 or 4 stories over the course of the semester with a computational journalism bent. So like I ended up making a podcast where we used one of like the language generation tools like GPT-2 or GPT-3 to like write creative pieces. And like that podcast was me bringing like a writer on and demoing these language models with the writer and discussing it. And we also brought in like an expert in, generative language and discussing that. And the great part about this class is that you really could explore, like, there was no like specific topic you had to do or any kind of, really strict guidance. It was all about you exploring your personal interest in computational journalism. So yeah, those are kind of my primary memories of that course.
Cool. And also in the journalism school in your second year, you take a class called Image and Sound, and that is a class that all MS students also take, where you get a sense on how to do one of 4 areas of kind of multimedia reporting. It's either audio, video, photo, or data. What did you choose for yours?
I did photo, and that class was really great because a lot of like the work that we do besides like aside from like the reporting module, the written word, it's all like very heavily influenced by like our CS background. Like that's the intent, is to like marry those 2 things. But this was like a proper, just like, be a reporter and take like be a reporter and like take good illustrative photos. So they would send us out to like different neighborhoods or different events. Like I covered like the marathon, had to take photos of the New York City Marathon, and I think eventually our final goal was to like put together like a little photo essay of, you know, a specific event that we did with like some reporting. So we would like talk to some folks and like write out captions and whatnot. And that was just I guess I would say ultimately, it wasn't totally in service of, you know, like the whole, like the primary goal of like uniting reporting and CS together, but it was still like a really fun class and a great way to flex the creative muscles where, you know, in an area that's not just like writing code, which was obviously, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Great. And also in the journalism school, in the spring semester of your second year, you have something, it says here, called a 15-week seminar and production class. And that's, again, something that all MS students will have a lot of options in front of them for what they would take. There's classes in writing, classes in podcasting, classes in broadcast, classes in investigative storytelling, more computational classes if you want to take them. What did you select for your option when you were at that point in the curriculum?
Trying to remember. I don't know. I'm not sure what class I took here. Was this something that was offered in my final semester in 2020? Oh, you know what? I remember now. I took news products. Basically, yeah, this was I don't know if they're still offering this, but it was taught by these two professors, two adjunct professors who came in, one from Bloomberg and then one from the New York Times. And the goal of that class was basically to teach you what a news product is. You know, it could really be anything. It could be like a new sort of like a new reporting package. Like New York Times Cooking could be considered like a news product, or a new podcasting platform where you know, someone like a news organization is like hosting all their podcasts. And it taught us basically what goes into that thing, you know, what sort of thinking goes into creating a product like that. Like, who do you have to consider? Do you have to consider the readers? Do you have to consider the reporters who will actually provide the content? And the bulk of this class was actually built around actually creating your own news product. So you had an idea, and your assignment was basically to, you know, interview people around the J School or different people who you thought might use the news product, and sort of use those interviews to help shape it. And then we would like practice wireframing, sort of like building like a skeleton of the product. And then eventually we got to present like our imagined news product in front of some pretty cool people, if I remember, like some like news, like proper newsroom people, and they would provide us feedback and whatnot. And that class was actually, I guess, done in partner with the Brown Institute, because the people who we presented to ended up like elevating and picking like a best product. And that one, the best product, ended up receiving I think like a $10,000 grant to like continue development of it after the class was over, which is a super cool thing that they did.
Awesome. So that kind of is in a nutshell is what you'll be doing in Pulitzer Hall, where we are right now, the journalism school. And then I was going to ask now, about 5 minutes away from here, in terms of walking 5 minutes from our building, are the engineering, you know, departments and the computer science departments. And so, as you can see here in the curriculum, in your first year, all throughout the whole curriculum, you take 9 classes, it looks like, in computer science or in the engineering school, 5 in the first year and then 4 in the second year. And I know there's kind of different categorizations of those. There's track classes, core classes, and elective classes. So within that 9, there's different types of you know, classifications for those. And I'm just looking at a list of some of the options that are kind of in that zone. There's like introduction to databases, programming language and translators, interface design, software engineering, classes like computer graphics, network security, computer vision, machine learning, 3D photography and computational photography, and web enhanced information management. So those are some of the options that are amongst all of those things you might be able to take. And I thought, instead of having Aaron have to list out all 9 classes you took, maybe mention a few highlights of the ones that you really felt were valuable or had a really, you know, great experience in.
Probably the class that I enjoyed the most might be advanced software engineering. Basically, one of the things that that's maybe pretty different about like a CS degree, or that I was unexpected, like I found unexpected about learning a CS degree, is that you don't actually, like, a lot of it is very theoretical. Like, you're learning a lot of like algorithms, like sorting algorithms, or like what different data structures are, and like how to like leverage them. But they don't actually, many classes don't actually teach you how to write software. which is a big part of like what your job would probably be after graduating. So this class was actually had that intention. So they taught you what it means to like write a unit test and what a unit test should look like and do, and also how to sort of like write good modular repeatable code, which is, you know, if you're in a job where you're doing that, like that's very much appreciated. So it's good to know how to do that. So I found that class prepared me particularly well for the job that I have right now, which is basically developing software for the Washington Post. And I probably wouldn't have stepped into this role as cleanly as I did if I hadn't taken that class.
Excellent. And I see there's a big part that we haven't discussed yet, which is the master's project, which is here mainly in your second year. And I'm going to stop sharing now because I believe we have, actually, Aaron, I think your classmate, Eugene Joseph, is here too. And he can talk a little bit with you about what you worked on for that. 1 second, just to make sure Eugene is set up to go. 1 second.
Great. Yep.
So welcome to, this is Eugene Joseph, also a 2020 graduate of the dual degree program, same class as Aaron. And it's a great time to join us, Eugene. I was gonna ask both of you about this master's project that you actually both developed together and talk about, you know, the process. How did you figure out what you wanted to do and how did you execute it as a team? Either of you can start, you know, discussing that.
Yeah, for sure. So we were both taking the Frontiers of Computational Journalism class that was taught by Mark Hansen at the time, and we both independently, you know, expressed a lot of interest around just how information was being shared, and we both kind of independently submitted proposals for this, and our mentor, who was Susan McGregor, suggested that we both team up, and you know, this was a larger scale project that we could both kind of delve into, and it turned out to be really great that we teamed up, and it was a bigger project, and you know, the idea changed, a lot of things changed over the course of that, but it was really great working with Aaron through that and having a teammate.
Yeah, it was fascinating, sort of almost building one of those news products that I was talking about earlier in the meeting, where to like create this, you know, this project, which the idea behind it was to like track the proliferation of like image-based content through certain channels of social media. And we sort of pitched that idea as a reporting tool for reporters to be able to like see, oh, look at this, you know, far right meme that's percolating on Twitter. Like, where exactly did it come from? And so in order to like to build the best possible reporting tool, we did all these interesting things like, you know, interview working reporters in this field, you know, folks who generally dealt with like memetic content, and like how they, you know, understanding like how they went about like finding out the provenance of memes. And we also had to, you know, build software with the intent of it being used by somebody. So it had to like be designed in a certain way. And like the database had to be fast enough where it was like actually a useful tool. So that was a great experience, sort of imagining something like that from end to end and sort of building all parts of that.
Great. And I thought I'd ask both Eugene and Aaron a bit about what it's like to be a part of two kind of communities, you know, the journalism school community and also the engineering and computer science world. Kind of what is it like to be in a dual program where you are kind of working with different faculty and different students across the campus?
Yeah, so you're very much a part of the computer science program and also the journalism program, but then there's also this intersection in the form of classes and in the form of just your interactions with your classmates, and also like so many cool events that happen just between the TAO Center and the Brown Institute, and so it's very intellectually stimulating. And my I guess one piece of advice that I would give is that because you're going to enter this like incredibly rich multidisciplinary environment, there's so many paths that you can go down, and you can go really deep into the journalism, or you can go really deep into the computer science. And I guess just keeping an open mind about what you're exposed to and where that's going to take you, and where you feel like something is really resonating. But then also, as much as possible, trying to come into it with some intent about what you want to get out of it will be really helpful, because there is so much you can get out of this.
Yeah, there is like one of the things I definitely, when I applied for the program, I just like assumed that there was just a single track to be like a journalist who can code. But in reality, there's a lot of really fine distinctions and different paths that you can go down. You can be a data journalist. You could, go, like you said, like really into CS and like do some like really incredible stuff with like modeling and machine learning and whatnot. And sort of having figuring out which of those tracks you want to go down was really important to me, like figuring out, how to use my limited 2 years there best. I would say probably one of my favorite experiences at the J School or like my favorite part about working, at the J School and CS School was like just sitting in, I don't know if we can still do this with COVID, but like just sitting in Brown, like that big room where basically a lot of folks from TAO and Brown and just like anybody can kind of like walk in and work, and just hanging out there and like serendipitously like having events like pop up around us, like people talking and speakers come in and whatnot. That osmosis that came from those sort of informal interactions and like serendipitous moments was like probably one of the best parts about the experience. I learned as much from those moments as from any class.
Cool. And
Yeah, I mean,
oh, go ahead.
I would just to give it like some color to what Aaron's saying, it'll be like you have so much homework and you're sitting in this room, and then the guy who invented C++ walks in and gives a talk about what he was thinking about when he designed that language. You're like, all right, we got to get back to work. And then, some incredible investigative journalist is going to be giving a talk upstairs, like the bad blood guy or something like that. And so, that's part of the challenge of also being in this environment, is kind of leaving time to focus on the work, and it is an intense program.
Mm-hmm. Great. You've both been mentioning the Brown Institute for Media Innovation and the TAO Center for Digital Journalism. And so I thought I'd ask Drumel a bit about what the TAO Center can offer students and what are some of the resources, since you're the assistant director of that center here.
Yeah. So I'm an assistant director of TAO. I can also talk a little bit about Brown that I've been involved a little bit here and there. The TAO Center produces sort of research around news ecosystems. So, what's going on with Facebook in Australia, or how do sort of these networks of what we call pink slime news organizations, right? These sort of fake-ish news sources that are popping up in lieu of local news. So I think a lot of TAO, what we're doing is like zooming out and thinking about news ecosystems as a whole and identifying sort of important things to research in that area. And then, I've done a little bit of work here and there with Brown, and I think that the distinction there is like they're doing more sort of hands-on project development, like things that are sort of applied and used, whereas TAO is doing a lot of, thinking about the news ecosystem as a whole, writing white papers about it, sort of exposing the mechanics of how systems in news work.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And then I guess the other thing I'd like to add also is, I'm still doing the text analysis kind of work that I'm doing. And there's also room for like applied sort of computational research. That's not like building a news product as well. So like there are sort of, one of the things I focus on is bringing methodologies from quantitative social science into news and reporting. And there's opportunities for you to work sort of at the cutting edge of that as well.
Great. And I see, Aaron is in the Washington Post office as we speak. And I thought I'd ask both Eugene and Aaron a bit about what it was like working with the Career Development Office here at Columbia in terms of thinking ahead about what to do with this training that you're getting here and what kind of potential paths you could go on when you graduate.
Yeah, so I mentioned before that one of the best ways to like learn to learn what you're doing is to actually do it, and finding like a good, useful internship that like explores a topic that you want to explore is like exactly the best way to do that. And so when I was sort of going through my 2 years at the in this program, I was like constantly checking in with the Career Center, especially around like intern application season, which is like anywhere from like the beginning of the school year, maybe like October, November, all the way through to like February, March, depending on how soon you find something. and always, they would sort of know my interests. Like I would sort of build a relationship with someone there. Like my reporting professor actually also was there, Amy Singer. She's now retired or moved on to a different role. And she would sort of say, hey, we would like email each other, and she'd say, hey, Aaron, I saw the Washington Post just posted this really cool internship online that seems like it might be up your alley. Or like the Texas Tribune has a fellowship in like sort of data journalism. Maybe you're interested in that. And depending on, what I was personally interested in, I would sort of, look at these things and pick out internships that I thought were like, going to support the skills that I was trying to develop. And that ended up being like a real stepping stone to where I ended up right now. When I came into this program, I had very little CS knowledge. I was like really more of a journalist. And so the first internship that I did was at the Miami Herald, where I mostly reported, but then I got like a little bit of like, Python scripting and like data journalism work in. And then the next time around, I was working at the LA Times in like news product, where I was like a much more serious developer. So it all sort of served as a stepping stone to get to where I am right now, where I am just like a capital S software engineer.
Great.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because also my journey was sort of the opposite, where I was trying to learn how to be a capital J journalist, coming from being a software engineer. And I think this program will really help you be both, regardless of which one your aim is.
I entered the program similar to Drumel, where I had been working as a software engineer and as like a entrepreneur for several years, and I wanted to really understand the journalism industry and learn how to be a reporter. And that was incredible too. And to echo what Aaron was saying, the career advisors and the opportunities that there are for networking are insane. That's the word that I would use if you really take advantage of it. And career advisors really go out of their way to check in with you. And everybody in our class got like incredible internships. And and then I mean, even the people that you meet from your classes and your professors. And I remember Aaron and I worked on there was a news products class that was taught by like the head of product at Bloomberg, which is, that in itself is crazy. But we built a product over the course of that class. And when through the course of the class, we were introduced to the head of products at like 4 major newsrooms, who all gave us incredible feedback. And that we're all connected to them. We could all email them if we needed to. And just that level of connectivity, and then just to stress again, like the quality of the career services and how much they care and how much they're proactively reaching out and feeding opportunities and checking in with you was something that I thought was remarkable.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the resources you get is this like board, basically. It's like a big table that has like every single internship you could possibly like imagine, like in the realm of journalism. And because I guess like the connections that the Career Center has with like news organizations means that like when a new internship posting goes up, they like send it to the Career Center and be like, oh, send this out to your students. And that's often how like I found internships that I was interested in applying for. And small fun tidbit from that news product class, one of the people who came to talk with us is Jeremy Bowers, who's the director of newsroom engineering or something. He has a very fancy title. Anyway, he's my boss now. We are like, one of the great parts about the J School is that it's so well connected to the news world at large.
Great. And I should mention now for people who are attending and want to ask questions, I opened up the chat function here in the Zoom. So you can write a question to me, specifically Ross Yelsey, in the chat. I wouldn't write to my other co-hosts because they'll be busy answering questions, but you're welcome to put questions in there and I can raise those to our guests. But before we go to those questions, I thought I'd ask kind of a closing question for this particular part of the conversation, which is, I went over all these programs initially at the beginning of this presentation, the MS in data journalism, the MS, the MA. Who do you think would be an ideal person for this kind of program? What should they be looking to do? What kind of ambitions might they want to have to be well suited for what this offers?
So I guess I can start. I just think that, like, I did a bunch of hiring during my time at 538 as well, or like at least was involved in hiring processes. And there is, for certain roles, there's this question of like, well, does this person have the coding chops? And there's also this question of like, well, does this person have enough newsroom experience? Do they have editorial judgment, that sort of thing? And I think this program will hopefully give you a solid grounding in both of those things so that employers who are looking to hire you are not asking those kinds of questions of you as a candidate. Like, they see what you've done during your time here, and hopefully it's just evident that you have both of those really strongly. And I guess the other thing I'd like to add is also the field has changed a lot. And so there are sort of opportunities to be like the one coder in a small newsroom that sort of handles a lot of things. There's also these opportunities to be hyper-focused. Like, I'm going to be a visual journalist working at the intersection of art and computer science and journalism and just make charts all day long. And those sorts of opportunities exist now too. And all of that is, I think, relatively new-ish in the industry.
Yeah, I would just, Aaron mentioned Jeremy Bowers, who leads the tech team at the Washington Post. And one of the things that he told us was to lean into the liminal spaces between all of these disciplines. And, this program gives you a lot of the skills and a lot of the mindset to do that, because that's where so much opportunity is. And I think, like Thermo was mentioning, you will leave with a very well-rounded skill set, and that you can kind of fill the niches and cracks where work is needed in all of these newsrooms, or do all sorts of other things. And for me, I won a Pulitzer grant coming out of that program, and I'm using that to set up a new media outlet that's building upon an idea that was developed in a concept in Mark Hansen's class. So that's like a very entrepreneurial, way that I took this. But also, I mean, everything you're going to learn from the computer science side and the journalism side, like that combination in my mind is just so potent for entrepreneurship. And this industry is changing so quickly, and you're going to get such a great vantage point within which to understand what's happening, but also do something about it. So
very cool. So we have some questions in the chat. One was about kind of GPA we're looking for in an applicant's, application, a minimum. I'd say we don't usually have a hard and fast like GPA set for what we're looking for. I'd say we're looking for strong performance in classes that are pertinent to the program that you're applying to. So for this kind of program, I think we're looking for people who can show that they're pretty proficient, at least in some ways, in computer science, or I believe linear algebra or statistics or mathematics, and have some background in that, have taken classes and have done reasonably well in that kind of background already. Aaron or Eugene, are there, what was your background when it came to the computational side? What had you already done before you came to the program?
I actually had pretty, and for the record, my GPA was not particularly good. Like, wasn't no super genius when I was in college, but I had plenty of like writing samples. Like, I was probably like a more ideal candidate for like the journalism side, where I had like plenty of reporting experience, and I had written lots of different essays and whatnot, and I submitted a lot of those as part of the application. The CS degree is a master's degree, but it's not like I came in with like a ton of experience. I minored in it, so I had maybe like 4 or 5 classes under my belt, and like not too much else extracurricular in that regard. So while there is like some, you want to be confident that you can like step into like some grad school courses and like sort of have an idea of what's going on. You by no means need to have any kind of expertise, because I certainly didn't.
Yeah, I had degrees in biomedical engineering and in music before I joined this program. And on the engineering side, just having a firm grasp of statistics and linear algebra and calculus and all that kind of stuff, because the computer science classes are going to get pretty mathy, especially if you choose to go down like things like machine learning and in that path. So it's good to have like it's only going to help you to brush up on that stuff before you come in. Yeah, but the people you're going to meet, I mean, at least in the year above us and in our year, had such interesting and different backgrounds, and that's another one of my favorite parts about this program is that like there's so much to learn just from the people around you and where they're coming from. And there was a guy in the year before us that was he studied literature and music, but now he had worked for several years as an engineer, and that's how he got into the program. I should also mention, yeah, I did mention that I worked as a software developer for several years before joining too. So that was kind of my background. But I think math, statistics, I think we all felt that it would have been really great to have just brushed up on that, and we did end up brushing up on that joining the program.
Yeah, and I guess I'd like to also add that like we're looking to see whether or not you can survive in the CS department. It's not, like, do you have the skills to sort of not be overwhelmed when you get here? It's not like, are you the academically strongest, computer scientist in the world? It's like, do you have a demonstrated interest in news, and like, would you survive in a CS grad school class?
Mm-hmm. That's really helpful. Thank you. A question now about careers again. Maybe Drumal, you could maybe offer some insight into this. Someone wondering a little bit more about what potential trajectories might be available for grads of this kind of program, whether it's doing R&D or different types of roles you could see in different organizations these days for people with this training.
So much stuff. It's such a cool time to be in this field. I think when I joined, it was very much like, hi, I can code what needs to get done. And I think that this industry has sort of moved to a place where it's like, well, you could be working on back-end infrastructure stuff. You could work on, if you want to go really far down, like quantitative social sciences route, you can start modeling elections. If you are really interested in art and visualization, there's like, places like the New York Times have a team of like 40 or 50, like just visual journalists whose main function is to communicate data visually. Like they're just teams of these people. So really, really cool career paths. And then there's also the if you want to work at a smaller newsroom where you wear a bunch of hats and you're sort of doing all the computational stuff that needs to get done. Research stuff, they're obviously like, I think a desperate need for people with editorial skills at tech companies that work sort of at the intersection of news and technology. And yeah, I think there are just so many paths you can go down. And so you'll have sort of a tray of things presented to you that you can sort of pick from.
I think just in like, I'll like run down the list of just our graduating class, me and Eugene's. And so like, I'm a software developer at a newsroom building like tools for journalists. Like I build like a document processor. That's the project I'm working on. We have an entrepreneur. We have an iOS developer for the Wall Street Journal. We have someone who's more of a data journalist working in like a cryptocurrency publication. We have someone who went back to work in fintech. So there's really, even in this tiny sample size, we went in so many different directions.
A few more. We have in the year above us, somebody's now getting his PhD in like interactive gaming, which he kind of went down that route. We have another person in the year above us who worked at the Wall Street Journal they had an innovations team, and they kind of spun off into their own company right now. And so they're working on a startup right now. So yeah, so many different ways you can go with this knowledge and with this program.
Well, we have a question about, I think for Eugene and for Aaron, asking about, now that you've graduated from the program, I know you're doing different things. Aaron, you're working in a newsroom, and Eugene, you're starting your own venture. We could probably speak more generally to this question, but what are some of the ambitions you're trying to realize in your role now, and how does this training kind of play a role in what you're trying to achieve within your team or on your own right now in your career?
We talked a lot about like trying to find the right path for yourself in this space that is so rapidly growing. There's so many different like flavors of what we do. I'm still sort of figuring that out. Like I'm working for the Washington Post right now as a software developer, but I still have like a lot of affinity for journalism and storytelling. So I came here partly because like they run elections, and that's amazing and really, really cool. But partly because I wanted to learn really, really powerful like software development skills and great practices and whatnot. And I could potentially take that back to the newsroom where like someone with like really good DevOps skills might be useful in like a graphics desk that are trying to do more ambitious things. The process doesn't really stop after you graduate. There's a lot more, like just because you stick in a certain spot doesn't mean that you're not moving somewhere else.
Yeah, just echoing what Aaron says, you know, the skills, I mean, there's some of the hard skills that you're going to learn within computer science. And just to add to that, like you have a choice over the courses you take. There are some core classes, but you can lean deep into the visualization. You know, there's like a whole track for that. You can lean deep into the artificial intelligence. You can lean deep into like, you know, more classical computer science stuff like operating systems or languages or stuff like that. So you have options there as well. But for me, I would say like this program has given me just invaluable skills between the journalism and the computer science, and an awesome network that's just a springboard to whatever it is that's going to come next. And for right now, it's entrepreneurial projects. But you know, whatever comes next, like this is very useful.
Great. That's a great way to wrap up our conversation, I think. So what I put in the chat now for everybody is the actual page on the computer science department in the School of Engineering. They're the place where the application lives for this particular dual degree program. So if people are interested in applying, you would go through their website to apply for this. You only have to apply once, as I mentioned, to the program. You don't have to apply to computer science and to journalism separately. You can do it in one, so it's pretty convenient. And you can go through there. I should say the deadline for applications for this cycle for the dual degree is January 15th, 2022. To be potentially admitted for the next year's class. So you have about 2 months now to get an application together. So we were happy to answer questions too over here. I know Drew will put his email in the chat. I'll put our general admissions office email in here too, apply.journalism@columbia.edu. And you're welcome to follow up with us about specific questions you have about this program or other opportunities at the school. And as I mentioned, we'll be having some events coming forward. We'll have one this Saturday, which is an in-depth journalism school admissions session about all of our programs, including this. You can ask more questions there too. So we look forward to seeing more of you. And I'd love to thank Drumel, Aaron, and Eugene for coming and offering such insights into this really cool program and you know, offering advice to all these potential applicants. And I'd like to wish everyone a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, and take care. Goodbye now.